my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So it is my final most anticipated releases video of 2024, which is just wild to me. I'm already putting together my list of my most anticipated books of 2025. I always do like an ultimate list and then I do the monthly videos throughout the year. So that should be coming to you the first couple of weeks of December. That's usually when I post it. And sometimes I break it down into different genres. Let me know if you'd be interested in that, like having a romance one, a fantasy one, or just one big video. I'll do whatever one you all prefer, so just let me know down below. And as always, December is a quiet release month, but I think there's like 8 or 10 that caught my eye, that sound really interesting, and I just want to put on your radar, so we'll just run through them. December 3rd is the biggest release day of the month, so you have some time to buy the books as Christmas presents or to treat yourself to them. And the first one is Private Rights by Julia Armfield, and that author might sound familiar because she wrote Our Wives Under the Sea, which I haven't read, but I feel like it's a me book, and I think I will like it when I eventually decide to pick it up. I know it gets mixed reviews, but something about it just feels like it's a Kristen book to me, and a lot of people did read that one, and a lot of people did really like it. So if you didn't know, she's got another book coming out, and I don't seem to hear people talk about this one as much. Like, the hype doesn't seem to be there and the buzz, and that might just be because it's coming out in December. It seems like a weird time to put this book out, but it is a speculative reimagining of King Lear, which is interesting, centering 3 sisters navigating queer love and loss in a drowning world. So the speculative element of this one is actually, it's in a world where it's constantly raining, so obviously that is affecting the planet. And it says that the land has reshaped itself and arcane rituals and religions are creeping back into practice. And we're following 3 sisters. Their father dies. They haven't spoken in a long time, but they come together to clear out his house. I guess he's like an architect and a very popular, well-known one, but he was a bit of an arse. And they come together, they help clean out this house that's all made of glass, and it's like a really famous house. And they find family secrets. The will tears them apart again, and then we follow the 3 of them. I think one is divorcing, getting a divorce, another's falling in love for the first time, so they all have their own past, but they ultimately have to come back together, make some decisions that will not only affect their lives but the entire world. So really intrigued by that. And I'm not as familiar with King Lear as I'm sure a lot of people are, so I don't know like the plot beats, and I won't be able to compare it to that story. And I don't think King Lear is one that is retold very often, so at least that's a little bit unique. Then we have Dust by Alison Stein, and this says that nothing grows without a fight. In this haunting, speculative coming-of-age novel about finding your place in an unforgiving environment, a partially deaf teen questions everything she knows about family, love, and her future. So we're following Thea, and her father has some kind of premonition and moves her and her whole family to this barren land, so the opposite of the last book. There's no rain in this one, and she's being homeschooled barely and very self-isolated, and her family's trying to protect her from the world, but obviously that has consequences. But they do let her work, I think part-time, at a coffee shop because they need the money, and there she meets a deaf teen. I think they have a romance. She was born partially deaf, but her father has always wanted her to act as though she isn't deaf at all, and she's introduced to a whole new community. This boy is teaching her sign language, and it really opens her up to the world, and I think it sounds really great. I don't read a lot of YA coming of age stories these days, but once in a while one does pique my interest, and this one definitely does. Of course, we have to have a Christmassy romance, or at least this one looks wintry. It looks Real Good Now by Sophie Thomas. This does take place before Christmas, and it's set in an airport, which is always kind of a sweet setup, and it's childhood friends to lovers. She just turned down a proposal, and she's having to go home for the holidays and face her family in her small town who are all judging her. And he is a professional hockey player who just had an injury. They run into each other in the airport, and obviously feelings start to happen. I just think that sounds kind of sweet. A book that I talked about last year on my most anticipated releases, I think it was last year, was Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. And she has a new book coming out called The Shutouts, and her book's just called to me even though I haven't read anything by her. I love the cover of this. It's a brilliant queer dystopian novel following a cast of characters on the margins of a strange and exclusive new society. So yeah, I like dystopian. So it's set in 2041, so not far from now, and it's a dangerous time to be a woman driving across the United States alone. Deadly storms and uncontrollable wildfires are pummeling the country while political tensions are rising. But Kelly's on the road anyway. She desperately needs to get back to her daughter, who she left 7 years ago for a cause that she's no longer sure she believes in. 40 years later after that, and we're following a different mother and her daughter, and they are on the run as well from a climate change relief program known as the Inside Project, where they spent the past 22 years being treated as lab rats. So this sounds intense, but I am very intrigued. It tells a captivating story of those who have been shut out from the inside, their fight to survive, and an interconnectedness larger than all of them. Yeah, I'm gonna have to prioritize that one. That might be a January read for me. Something about that really, really calls to me. I'll definitely look out for reviews. I just saw this pretty cover. I thought it sounded good. It's The Peculiar Garden of Harriet Hunt by Chelsea Everson. A lush and enchanting story of a woman who must use the magic of the fantastical plants that adorn her crumbling estate in Victorian London to thwart the dark plots of the men around her. That sounds like a good time. I'm here for a magical plant. I'm here for Victorian London. And let's thwart the dark plots of some men. I'm up for that. That sounds really cute, actually. So yes, it says it makes for the perfect modern fairy tale about women taking control of their lives with a little help from the magic within them. Might be a good one for the Black Hat Book Coven. We tend to read some darker stuff. Might be nice to have something a little bit lighter and more fun. So keep that one in mind. Remind me that that was one of my choices for that, because I have a long list for that book club, which will continue in 2025. Then we have a debut by Eliza Moss called What It's Like in Words, and this is a dark, intense, and compelling account of what happens when a young woman falls in love with the wrong kind of man. So this follows a woman in her 30s, and she hasn't crossed off all the boxes. She's not where she thought she would be at this point in her life, and she's searching for her first love, and she meets this writer, and she thinks that it's going to be like a whirlwind romance, and it becomes really intense and dark. And it says it's a close examination of what it means to experience the intense emotional uncertainty of first love. I think this is interesting. It says she might feel like she's going crazy at times, but she wants him, she needs him, she would die without him. That's what love is, isn't it? Over the next 24 hours and 2 years, everything that Enola thinks she knows is about to unravel, and she has to think again about how she sees love, family, and friendship, and most importantly, herself. Courtney Gould has a new book coming out, and this is on December 10th, and it's called What the Woods Took. The theme that I noticed this year is there are a lot of books set in the woods that came out in 2024, and I love that. That's one of my favorite settings, so I'm up for it. It's actually Yellow Jackets, which is actually too scary of a show for me. I can read that stuff, but I can't watch it. Meets Girl Interrupted, a classic, when a group of troubled teens in a wilderness therapy program find themselves stranded in a forest full of monsters eager to take their place. I think that's all you need to hear about that one. Yeah, atmospheric and sharp, a poignant story of transformation that explores the price of becoming someone or something new. So, monsters, forest, sounds fascinating to me. Here we have A Lighter Romance, Not My Book by Katie Holt. This is the hating game meets beach read in a sexy and hilarious contemporary romance from a debut Peruvian Tennessean author. So a debut, we love that. So this is your classic rivals to lovers story. These two are writers. They are doing a workshop, I think, in New York, and they hate each other. And their banter gets to the point that the professor is forcing them to write a book together, and he is like very literary, and he looks down on the romance genre, which I think is a very common theme, and hence the beach read comparison, I assume, which I haven't read beach read, but I know what it's about. And the two of them work together to write this novel, and they fall in love. It then says when Rosie and Aiden find themselves competing against each other for a potential career-changing opportunity, the flames of old rivalry reunite, and their once-in-a-lifetime love story is once again at risk of being shelved unless they can find a way to end the book on their own terms. I've noticed a lot of these romances that center around writing and books have a lot of puns and cliches in them, and I think it's cute. I'm here for it. So North is the Night. This is by Emily Wraith. I like this cover. It screams winter. It screams January read to me. Two bold young women defy the gods and mortals, living and dead, in this dark mythological Finnish folklore-inspired fantasy duology. That was a mouthful, but I got through it. This is for readers of T. Kingfisher's Nettle and Bone. You won me over. You put T. Kingfisher in there. Danielle L. Jensen, who's somebody I discovered this year. Jennifer Almertrout, all the classics. So there is definitely a witch queen in this one. This is giving very much Catherine Arden, which I also appreciate, and like Naomi Novik, that kind of vibe. So yeah, I need to read that one. That does sound like a good January book as well. And then the last one is A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. And this has vampires, so you know I added it to my TBR, and I love the cover. It says a fledgling vampire and a headstrong vampire huntress must work together against their better judgment to rid the world of monsters in this irresistible romantic fantasy. So it's your classic vampire hunter setup, but that tends to hit for me. There's a reason why it's a classic. So obviously these two should be rivals, but they have a common enemy, and they can stop these evil beasts together. And if along the way Lalo and Fernanda discover what it is to truly live and love, then they'll have won anyways. So nice little fantasy romance to end the year. So those are all the books on my radar that come out in December. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you had arcs of any of these, which ones you would be most interested in me checking out, because I'm thinking I might do some kind of vlog. Yeah, I always say this. Some kind of vlog where I read the 2024 releases that I just didn't manage to get to this year, because there are quite a few of them, obviously. But just the ones that pique my interest the most, or the ones you were most interested in. So let me know that down below. And I hope you have an amazing December and you feel the festive feelings if you celebrate, and that it's not too cold. It's definitely getting cold here. So I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.